Manila International Airport Authority is planning to turn NAIA Terminal 2 into an all-domestic terminal.
Bago mag-open yung Terminal 2, it was really designed for domestic. So, ginamit lang ng Philippine Airlines yon as a consolidated terminal or integrated terminal for both domestic and international operations. Gagawin natin all domestic yan. So, pati yung ibang domestic airlines doon na mag-ooperate. No? Except, of course, sa Cebu Pacific, dito muna sila sa Terminal 3 kasi masyadong malaki ang Cebu Pacific. Hindi rin magkakasya.
Airports are gearing up for an expected surge in passengers as the long Holy Week break draws near.
We are also looking at how to better facilitate the arrival and release of tourists from their point of entry and their point of departure. And that means looking at the lines that they have to go through, reducing these lines and improving the waiting time for them to come in and out of the gateways.
The daily passenger volume of 120,000 at the NAIA is expected to reach 140,000, especially during the Holy Week break when Malacanang added an extra day off, which is April 10, in observance of the Day of Valor.
Long lines at immigration counters, missed flights, airport personnel supposedly stealing from passengers. These are just some of the horror stories coming out of the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. And with revenge travel building up and the long Holy Week break coming up, how can airport authorities ensure a hassle-free travel experience for all of us? Let's talk about this tonight on the Chiefs. Welcome to the Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay. Kasama ko po dito sa studio ngayon. Dito sa Mandaluyong, Ed Lingao of One News and online kasama natin from Manila, Ami Pamintuan, Editor-in-Chief po ng Philippine Star, and from Quezon City, Lucy Cruz Valdez, Hepe ng News 5. Chiefs, Happy Tuesday. Ami, anong balita?
Nakita na si Princess Empress at hindi pa rin nakikita si Congressman Arnie Tevez.
Ang galing ng...
Hindi nakikita kasi hindi magpapakita. Kailangan ng ROV doon.
Unahin natin yon. Unahin natin yung sa Empress. Pero tama ba yung pagkakabalita ko, Bo? Kasi kahapon, tanong, ito bang ROV, taga-silip lang? But now,
Ay, sasabi nila, pwede siyang mag-weld ng butas. Pero I suppose the bigger question is, you're not just there kasi to seal the holes eh. Before you seal the holes,
you have to recover.
Suction up the oil. Otherwise, if you seal the holes, eventually the oil will come out because it's cargo. And oil is lighter than water. So eventually it will find its way out, not unless you suction it out. Ang question ngayon is, kasi 2-in-1 daw, it can survey and it can weld, but can it suction? So mukhang 2-in-1, di siya 3-in-1.
Okay. So meron pa rin tayong pangamba dun sa cargo.
Yeah,
hindi pa rin kompleto.
Because that's 800 or 900,000 liters eh. That's a lot of oil. And you can't just leave it there. Like Guimaras, that's what they did with Guimaras. They suctioned off all the remaining oil before they sealed.
Sige, doon tayo sa item number 2 mo, Ami, kay Congressman Tevez. So, anong status ngayon? Hindi nga siya sumipot doon sa, well, we expected that, but that was a no-show, as we're all saying now, and as Congress is now saying. What happens now?
Hinihintay natin na naka-close door ang House eh. Ayaw nilang sabihin na, well, I guess they're still discussing kung ano nga yung exactly gagawin nila, di ba? Pwede nila actually tanggalin daw eh, di ba? The worst.
2/3 vote.
Yeah, under the rules of the 18th and adopted by the 19th Congress, 2/3 vote in order to expel or suspend for 60 days any member of the chamber. So that's
Siyempre, kailangan mo ng due process dyan, di ba?
Yeah.
Right.
Ang dinig namin, Ami,
Baka hindi pa siya talaga formally, wala namang formal charges pa, di ba?
Yeah, not for Digamo. May formal charges lang for the alleged 2019 murders, but not for Digamo.
And the guns. The illegal
And the
possession of
firearms,
firearms.
yes.
Well, ang good news sa kanya is when he decides to come home, baka mas maganda na ang immigration sa airport natin.
Yun ang segue.
Kaya nag-segue.
Yun ang segue.
And like we said, yan po ang pag-uusapan natin. For everybody wondering about the situation in our airports, we'll be bringing in our first guest after a short break. The Chiefs will be right back. Holy Week and summer, it is the peak season for air travel. Can our airports cope with the influx of passengers? Let's bring in Brian Ko. He's the Senior Assistant General Manager of the Manila International Airport Authority. Welcome to the Chiefs, Mr. Ko.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sirs, and thank you for inviting MIA to your program.
And before we get into the actual questions that people have sa airports, alam mo, Bok, it seems like only kailan lang walang gumagamit ng airport. Kailan lang people were asking, kailan tayo pwede mag-travel ulit. And now here we are, we sort of leaped immediately to discussions about the airport seemingly bursting at the seams and kaya ba, pumupugak-pugak na ba, and so on. Let's just start with that. Ano po bang situation ngayon sa travel? Are we back to pre-pandemic levels? What do we expect in the Holy Week break with revenge travel and everything? Where are we in terms of the numbers?
In terms of the numbers, globally, we've seen the trend that ever since the borders have opened up late last year, there's been an uptick in terms of the demand for travel. So we've seen this in different airports around the world that suddenly, since 2021, when you went to 2022, it's been a very different landscape with more and more flights that are being mounted as borders open up. Initially, for the Philippines, it's the local borders that have opened up. Previously, you remember that each and every different province will have their own restrictions, right? But once they harmonized everything around the second quarter of last year, domestic air travel actually boomed. And in fact, as of today, in terms of the domestic travel compared to the pre-pandemic or pre-2020, we're already at around 120% of pre-pandemic travel. It means more people are traveling today compared to the pre-pandemic 2019 figures on the same month. For international, however, it's still a gradual improvement since last year because the borders have been opening up slowly since last year. You remember that China, Korea, and Japan, which accounts for a lot of the tourists that we have here in the Philippines, just opened up their borders late last year, and China just this year. So in terms of the international travel, we're just at around 75% this February compared to pre-pandemic levels. But that's basically last year, for the whole year, we processed around 31 million passengers. That's a 300% improvement compared to the 7 million passengers that we processed the year prior, which is 2021. So really, there's a really steep increase in terms of the demand for the use of our airports. And just like any airports around the world, we're trying to cope with this surge in demand. But the MIA is here together with the DOTR to support this surge because we know it's good for the country and it's good for everyone as we open up the economy.
Okay, so 120% compared to pre-pandemic, yun yung domestic. We're at about 70+% when it comes to international travel. Does that explain what people seem to be getting, this vibe na parang di makasabay yung mga airports natin? Or are there other issues, in all honesty, that we still have to resolve?
Of course, there are different factors. As I mentioned, even other airports around the world are having a hard time in terms of how to cope with the post-pandemic demand, because a lot of the resources actually were cut during the pandemic. So it's airlines, the government agencies trying to ramp up to try to, accommodate this type of increase, which I mentioned, it's as much as 300% increase from 2021. But the MIA is closely coordinating with the airlines, the ground handlers, and the different government agencies that are working under our roofs, like the customs, immigration, quarantine. Because some of the pandemic procedures are still in place. So we still have the BOQ, we still have the e-travel requirements for quarantine when you arrive. So it's a very fast evolving situation that we have to adapt to in terms of post-pandemic travel. But definitely, we know that the demand is here. We've had a preview of the increased demand during December, because last December we actually recorded on certain days 140 to 145,000 passengers per day. Prior to December, we were only registering around 90,000 to 100,000. So if we were able to do it well in December, we think we can replicate the same during this summer. And we will be doing a lot of adjustments in coordination with the stakeholders around us so that we will be able to better serve our passengers. So we've taken note that there are different pain points, as mentioned by Secretary Prasco, the queuing, and those are the things that we're trying to resolve. We do have short-term measures, medium-term measures, and long-term measures so that we can improve the experience of our passengers in our country's main international gateway.
Pero sir, you noted nga an uptick of 20% dun sa domestic travel. But at the same time, during the pandemic, there was a downgrade in the number of flights, and I suppose as well in manpower and resources for both the airlines and I suppose including MIAA. Are you back to 100% in terms of those manpower, resources, and flights? Or are we still below 100%?
As far as the MIA is concerned, we actually never trimmed down our manpower during the pandemic in support of our employees in the government's program. But the private sector has been much more affected by this. But as of now, in terms of the number of flights that they're mounting or scheduling, we always make sure that they have sufficient manpower resources, such as flight crew, cabin crew, the ground staff, the baggage handling staff. There's a whole army of people that are at the airport that we don't see that are needed so that we can support the flights that needs to be dispatched. But the important thing here is, I think, compared to the other countries, like most countries in Europe and US, the Philippines has been more resilient in terms of deploying the required manpower resources that, some of the former airline or airport workers were willing to go back to work compared to, what the other countries are experiencing around the world. So in terms of manpower, we're closely coordinating with them. And so far, we can report that whatever they schedule to fly, we think that they're able to support with the sufficient manpower resources that they need.
So if you have enough people, what's causing the delays? Kasi ang dami-daming horror stories lately habang and in fact hindi naman yung volume of passengers right now is not yet pre-pandemic level, di ba? Although nag-increase nga from last year. But it's not yet pre-pandemic. But if you have the same number of people from pre-pandemic days, what's causing the delays? Now, kulang pa sa practice yan, anong diferensya?
Yes, of course, in terms of numbers, we might be the same, but like some ground handlers are reporting that a lot of the people that they hire are actually new and not the veterans that they used to have pre-pandemic. Because there's a global shortage of aviation employees. Some of the employees were actually, the Philippines is a good source of a skilled and professional labor. A lot of the local workers have been offered jobs overseas. And some of the ground handlers have reported that a big percentage of their manpower are relatively new recruits. So that contributes towards the processing rate that we have at the airports. It could be the same also for some of the congestion points like immigration. We know that we've been constantly trying to add more immigration posts, but as of now, based on our observation, the processing time is not yet that ideal in terms of processing of each passenger because there are really a lot of new recruits that are being put into the system. And hopefully, with a combination of employing new technology, proper training, having the right manpower and resources, we can fine-tune all of these issues so that we can deliver a better and consistent service to our passengers.
Outside of the passenger area, can we talk about the runways, no? Dahil yun, wala naman talagang magawa ron, di ba? I mean, matagal ng problema yung runway natin. The fact that, well, first of all, they're not really parallel runways. Merong intersecting runways dyan. So, grabe yung hintayan. Considering that hindi pa tayo 100%, no, compared to pre-pandemic. What are we doing to address what we project to be probably numbers that are higher than we're having now?
In terms of the runways or the infrastructure that we have, you are correct that Manila, even though we processed around 48 million passengers pre-pandemic, 2019, we operate only, not two full runways. We have intersecting runways, and only one of our runways are able to accommodate the big aircraft. Those aircraft that are used for long-haul flights, such as the 777s, the Airbus 330 and 350s. Because of that condition that we have, limited space to expand geographically here in Manila, we are really limited to these two runways, which we have the main runway as the secondary runway that we have for the smaller aircraft. So, but during the pandemic, there were some upgrade works that were done, especially to the shorter runway. And right now, since the new administration came in, we've had more focus on trying to rehabilitate the runways, taxiways, and the ramp of our airports, because we know that the NAIA airport is still going to be our primary gateway, at least the next 5 years, as we wait for a bigger airport that could serve the demand of the greater capital region. So in terms of investments, we will be investing a lot in terms of the rehabilitation infrastructure on the runways, taxiways, and ramps, because we know that these are needed for us to be able to have a reliable flight operation here at our Metro Manila Gateway.
Sir, what about...
Paano yung parang how far away are we from, say, the goal to be at least in the top 100 best airports in the world, no? We can't even make it to the top 100. But ano ba yan? Is that a dream that's realizable in the, let's just say, within the administration of President Marcos?
We think it is. All of these airports that are in the top 100, they didn't get there overnight. What's important is they do have a program in place. To be in the top 100, or in terms of the metrics of Skytrax, you do have certain measures that you have to improve on. And in the NMIA, a lot of the measures that we have to put in place so that we can provide a better experience are actually in place already, in terms of the programs that were approved by our board as well as by the DOTR, so that we can deliver better service. These are such examples such as digitalization. As you know, that's one of the big things that we have to do with our airport, because we only have a limited infrastructure. The only way we can be able to accommodate this much volume, because Manila Airport is just rated for 32 million passengers in terms of the design. But pre-pandemic, we already processed 48 million passengers. For us to improve the experience of the passengers and of the general public is by embracing other means of improving the process, such as digitalization, because we can't grow physically anymore. So you can expect that part of our programs that are in place, we will have an automated passenger processing system, which you can already see in our neighboring airports. These are examples such as self-check-in, self-bag drop, passenger reconciliation system, and collaborative decision-making within the airport system, so that we can reduce or minimize or actually eliminate the delays between the carriers. So we do have these programs in place. We have the technology part. We also have the infrastructure part. And of course, the people are also very important in terms of the training, the people that we deploy, their knowledge. So all of these things, as long as they're part of a long-term program and it's consistently followed, we think that at one point we will be able to increase our standing in terms of being one of the ideal airports around the world.
Actually, Mr. Ko, yun yung tanong ko. I mean, parang hit or miss. For example, with the e-gates arriving back in the country, you have a smart scannable na yung passport namin. But every time we travel and then on the way back, I'm conscious that I have 3 digital identities with me. Diba? Parang I have the passport, which is supposed to be smart. Wala na yung One Health Pass, but I have the e-travel, for which I entered data. And then behind all of that also is I have my VaxCert. I still have my QR code from my VaxCert PH. But they never work together. And it's glaring arriving in the country, in the airport, na why do I need all these 3 when it's the same data, essentially, that are overlapping for all 3? I mean, it's one thing for what we're aspiring for, but I think one question that people have is, with all our experience and getting to that, to VaxCert and this, why can't the existing ones work better even right now?
Well, to answer that, there's actually a harmonization effort that's being done within the government agencies so that we can try to reduce, the multiple times that each passenger will have to give their data so that they can be processed to enter in the Philippines, right? Because right now the e-gates are just being used for arrivals, not yet for departures. So the Bureau of Immigration and the other agencies around us are working together so that we can harmonize that. Remember, before e-travel, there were different platforms. There was the One Health Pass, and you still had to fill up information with the Bureau of Immigration. But I think the first step right now, together with the DICT and the other agencies, is we've been able to harmonize the requirements of BOQ, or the quarantine, as far as the health protocols are concerned, and the Bureau of Immigration. That's why right now we just have this single e-travel platform where we incorporate all of the data that's needed for the BOQ and the immigration. And at one point, we're also going to include the Bureau of Customs, because right now, even after you clear immigration, you still have that manual form where you present to the Bureau of Customs.
Yes.
So those are the repetitive steps that are really unnecessary and that are not present in the airports, our peers in the region. And that's why for us to be more competitive in inviting tourists, inviting investors, for them to go to our country, we have to be at that level in terms of being digital or having a more pleasant experience as far as the airports are concerned. As I mentioned, this is the first and the last touch point of these passengers when they go to the Philippines.
But I hope you don't take this as just repeating the same question. I do want to get to what at bottom line is the problem. For example, dun lang sa e-travel, your data, the data integrates with the airlines from my experience, because when you travel coming back, when you check in most airports, at the check-in counter, and we're not even talking to Philippine air aviation officials, we're just talking to the airline employees. They do make it a point to ask, do you have their e-travel apart from your passport? So obviously it's there, and then when you show it, okay na, I showed all my data. The data shows, the e-travel says okay to board, diba? Okay to get to the Philippines and so on. But pagdating dito, it's the Philippine airport that doesn't. Bakit ganon, di ba? Parang nakalapas ako sa airport, we would presume that you had essentially deputized the different airlines to screen us so that we can board. Why the additional check on the e-travel when you had already deputized and we had already gotten past that deputy?
Basically, what the airlines are checking in the outstations or in the foreign stations are still manual. It's not actually still integrated in terms of them having to view if the okay to travel is actually in terms of scanning that QR code by the Bureau of Quarantine if you're okay to enter. So what they just look for is the prerequisite, which is if you have the barcode, but to verify if the barcode is really complete or not. That's not yet done right now. It will be done in the next few steps of integration as we integrate more information with the airlines and the other industry stakeholders. But as of now, once you generate that barcode and once the check-in agent from a foreign station sees it, they accept that already as part of the pre-requirement to board, which is actually just optional because right now we're actually passengers are actually allowed to board the aircraft and just secure their e-travel when they arrive. But we do encourage them to do it when they're in the foreign station, so that the queuing here in Manila does not get too long. But yes, going back to the situation, once you get into the Philippines, these QR codes will be scanned by the first layer, which is a Bureau of Quarantine, and after that, the same information will be used by the Bureau of Immigration, of which the two processes we're actually trying to integrate as well, so that at one point we will be already removing this is a pandemic creation, the BOQ scanning lane. So unlike other countries, when you have this integrated system, you just have one touch point. So we're working with the Bureau of Immigration that everything can be done by them in terms of a one-stop shop arrangement, so that there won't be several layers for you to enter the Philippines. But we would say that it's a work in progress. So we are working hard with the DICT, with the different agencies, especially with the DOT and the DOTR, because we hear the passengers' issues, and we hear what you said, and that we would like to improve this process so that it will be more seamless, just like how everyone else experiences in our leading regional counterparts here in Asia.
Well, going back to your personnel, are you also reviewing your hiring and training policies? Kasi in recent weeks, recent months, ang daming complaints about unprofessional behavior, about thievery even, and other irregularities involving airport personnel. Are you doing that, reviewing?
Yes, of course, as I mentioned, there are more than 20 different government agencies working under NAIA. Although some of the agencies do not directly report to us, they do operate under our roof. That's why we take shared responsibility over what happens in our airport. I think the important thing is we have a good relationship with these agencies. I think what you mentioned will be some of the instances that was experienced by our security screeners, which are manned by the OTS, or Office for Transport Security, and we have a good relationship with USEC Aplaska. In fact, the GM and USEC Aplaska are in a security trip right now, so that they could benchmark on how we can improve the way we process things here in Manila. And one of the things that the TSA has immediately done after that incident was to reshuffle and try to move the people that are involved. And for those that are directly involved in these cases with thievery or lost items, a lot of them are actually been charged with administrative or criminal charges already. So we know that they mean business as far as the agencies that are working with us, and we are happy with the things that they're doing. And we're constantly coordinating on how we can actually improve, not just the OTS, but the Bureau of Immigration. In fact, by Thursday, we will have another meeting with the interagency working group, so that we can try to address all of these issues that we're facing, whether it's lost items, whether it's long queuing, or the other things that are happening around in our airport. And we would like to address
I think what worries people is at least yung nag-viral video, medyo garapal kasi nangyari yun. I mean, it's not like some employee just picked up a wallet. Mukhang kinuha yung pera sa loob ng wallet, tapos binalik pa. I mean, so there's that sense of impunity. I suppose that's the word for it, na parang I can get away with it if not for, I could have gotten away with it if not for the nag-video yung kasama ng victim. Otherwise wala. So it's that sense of impunity na what could have happened or what's happening that they think they can do that.
Yeah, I think what's very important is the transparency that we have. So, of course, we welcome all of these reports, and we would like to act on them immediately. So, after that incident where we saw what happened in Terminal 2 to that Thai passenger that was transiting going to Japan, we immediately looked into the different areas in our terminals where we can improve in terms of the coverage of our CCTV, so that we can immediately act on these cases. But number one, They're addressing the manpower issues that they may have, or, these different government agencies that are working with MIAA to operate NAIA. Number two, we're looking at, trying to eliminate all of these blind spots that we may have in the airport so that we can increase our deterrence against these types of activities. And we are also increasing the presence of our police, whether these are the airport police, these are the OTS auditors or supervisors, or the PNP that are roving around the terminal so that they can act as a deterrent against such acts. Those are being implemented right now. And in that case, in Terminal 2, we already removed the blind spot where there's a film coating on that transit area so that there's more transparency in terms of where the passengers go through. So those are the initial measures that we're working on, but a lot of the things would relate into the manpower that's being deployed. I think it's very good right now that based on the example that was done by the OTS, they did pursue charges against the personnel or that group that was manning that security screening checkpoint. And we really hope that that serves as an example, and we consistently implement these measures so that none of this will happen again, or at least it can be eliminated as far as these thefts are happening in NAIA.
Okay, Mr. Ko, one last question na lang po. Any reminders to everybody planning to travel this Holy Week?
Yes. Basically, our reminder would always be for travelers to be prepared when they go to the airport. For our departing passengers, we do recommend for international flights that they be at the airport at least 3 hours for international flights, before their scheduled flight. If they can come in a bit earlier, that's better, so that they don't go with the surge of passengers that are going to the different congestion points. For domestic flights, at least 2 hours before. And it's important that they also look into the traffic conditions on the certain times of they going to the airport so that they won't go there at the last minute, and they have the complete documentation with them so that it will be seamless as far as the check-in is concerned when they go through the immigration and they go to the boarding gates. And for our arriving passengers, as you mentioned a while ago, we still have the e-travel requirement for them to fill up. So we advise the passengers to be filling them up completely and correctly before they board their plane, so that when they arrive in Manila, they will have a more seamless experience by just scanning that QR code with their Bureau of Quarantine and going through immigration and exiting the airport in a timely fashion.
Okay, Mr. Brian Ko, Senior Assistant General Manager of the Manila International Airport Authority. Mr. Ko, maraming salamat po.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And good evening po.
And we'll start up another conversation after this break. Keep it here on One News.
The new locations for the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, or EDCA, will be announced very soon. Defense OIC Carlito Galvez sees no further objections to additional sites where exercises between Filipinos and American troops will be held. Let's bring to this conversation Cagayan Governor Manuel Mamba. Sir, magandang gabi and welcome back to the Chiefs.
Good
Good evening, Governor.
Good evening, sir, and thank you for joining us. Yes, sir. Sir, we Yes, sir. We do recall, sir, na we do recall your objection to the idea of including Cagayan among the EDCA sites. Pero ngayon sasabi po ni Secretary Galvez, you would be agreeable daw kung sakaling i-announce nga na ang Cagayan ay kasama sa EDCA sites. Tama ho ba 'yon? Is that correct? Is that an accurate description of your position?
That's not true.
Oh.
Sinend niya yung kanyang ASEC sa akin, General Paul Lorenzo, who was a former 5th ID commander dito sa akin, sa Region 2, when I was ARPOC chair. And talking to them, they want to talk to me about EDCA. I told them my position, most especially kay General Paul. Alam niya naman, he stood as one of my consultants before he was hired. And he knows the plans and the programs that we have, especially looking northward and moving northward kami, towards our neighbors up north. And so, sabi ko, ako na lang pumunta para wala akong masabi si Secretary. So, we saw each other. Ang sabi niya is, President will be announcing soon. Ganon.
Opo.
So, that's the call of the President. What can I do? But I continue opposing the presence of any foreign forces in my province, Cagayan, and EDCA sites in Cagayan. That's what I told him. I will go on. And yun, I was surprised.
Governor, as you said po, there are dynamics here between the national government on the one hand, the president, and you as governor of Cagayan. But atras lang po ako ng konti. Maybe to give your context first on your concerns about EDCA and your province. What are the implications for you that weigh heavily on you?
Well, una-una, this is started. I was just consistent with what I've been doing before this. They did a balikatan here before pre-pandemic. And I welcome them. Humanitarian, rescue, so volunteer. I think these are reserve officers of the U.S. came in. I even joined them. And after that, nawala. Tapos nagkaroon ng ating pandemic, and after the pandemic, eto na naman sila. But this time, was surprised, under the Duterte administration, I was surprised that the Marines, according to them, wanted my imprimatur on the balikatan exercises. So, pinakita na sa akin yung design. Sabi ko, okay sa akin, pwera lang itong live fire exercises. Because I asked about the live fire exercises, yung pala, testing ng mga missile at lahat in my area. So I don't like this because we are inviting investors, especially from the north, especially China, to invest in the province. And we want to dredge our river, open our port because it was closed already, Pari Port. We have always been connected with our neighbors up north, especially China. A lot of intermarriages here. So from then on, I was able to get a PPOC resolution opposing the live fire. I was able to get an RPOC resolution. In fact, pumunta ba yung mga Amerikano sa akin, the U.S. Embassy officials, headed by their political officer, and then a economic attaché, and 3 colonels, punta sila sa akin. And I discussed this with them, na ayaw ko nung magkaroon na animosity with any of my neighbors. And then, yun nga, and then came itong EDCA. I was never informed about it. I only heard it over the radio and the news and the social media. And then the media started calling and interviewing me. So I came up with a position of opposing any of this, very specific naman sinabi ko na ayaw ko ng foreign forces in my province. I don't want EDCA sites in my province. So, ganun pa yung nangyari. Why? Well, ang nakikita naming future ng aming probinsya is our connection with the North. No? China, as we see it, is a big market of our food products. You know, we are an agricultural country. No, we used to be very rich. Nung nandiyan pa yung aming part, we are the premier country, premier province in the North, and we are the oldest province in the North. No? And we were connected with them. At close yung Port of Apari namin, wala na kami maibenta sa labas. So we look southward sa Metro Manila. But we were limited with rice and corn sa Metro Manila, grains lang. Yung high value crops namin, yung livestock namin, fishery namin, fish products namin, wala. It's confined with us. And so we saw this, no? Lalong-lalo na nag-close. You know, when China opened up 40 years ago to the world, our Port of Apari closed. So ano nangyari sa amin? We stagnated as a province. No? Because our port was never dredged of a river. They wanted to come up with their own port. Wala namang nangyari. With CESA, the Port Irene. In the last 28 years, walang nangyari po dyan hanggang ngayon. It's the haven of illegal activities dito sa atin. And so we see a lot of opportunity now. No, we do not even have an international commercial airport to welcome also our foreign. China now is the number one provider of tourists in the world. So wala ho kami nun. Ano mangyayari sa amin? And wala kami mapagbentahan dahil talo naman kami sa Bulacan, sa Gambisiha, sa lahat, as far as providing food in Metro Manila. And that is why, sabi namin, this is a monkey wrench. No? So, I haven't discussed this with my constituency dahil wala nang official sa akin informing me of na EDCA site na ang Cagayan. Ano yung rumors lang and all of this now. Pumunta ako sa kanila, yun ang sinabi nila sa akin. Sinabi ko yung position ko, but I'll go on. Of course, this is not my fault. The call of the President. Alangan namang kontra-kontra ako at ayaw ko ng ganito. Ang sabi ko, I'll continue opposing it. I'll continue talking against it. Continue telling my people the effects of this because it would be a magnet of attack from the adversaries of the United States of America.
Pero Governor,
do the mayors of Cagayan share the same position as you?
I do not know, ma'am. I haven't seen that resolution na sinasabi nila. I have never been dependent on mayors. Most of them buy their votes. I don't buy votes. Most of them, no? Wala ko na nanalong mayor dito sa amin kundi magbayad ng vote. Huwag kayong maniwala that they have influence over them. I don't depend on them, ever. I became a mayor too. I don't even buy votes. And that is why I don't see... and it's an irony na sila pa ang magsasabing open sila sa ganyan. Hindi nga nila kayang lumaban sa NPA dito sa amin. Nobody stood against the NPAs here except me.
Pero Governor, hindi yata kayo nagkaintindihan ni Defense OI si Charlie Galvez. Kasi sabi niya, hindi yata niya narinig yung sinabi niyo you are continuing your opposition. Bakit kaya nagkaroon ng ganong misunderstanding?
Ewan ko sa kanya po. Siguro, he might have misunderstood me. Maybe he wanted to put words on my mouth. Kung sasabihin niya yung ganun, hindi na ako iimik. I'm sorry for him. I will have to say my piece. Sinabi ko naman sa kanila. I will go on. Respetado ka, Presidente. Ang tingin ko, I am in consonance with what he wanted for our country. You know, I was part of the Noynoy Aquino administration. We voted on this, no, on a multilateral approach to the problem. I voted on that too. No, ang gusto na ng China is a bilateral talks between us and China. We resented that. We voted on it. Multilateral tayo. Siguro ayaw nila ng ganun. Now, the President made a very bold move, no? President Bongbong Marcos, no? by agreeing to a bilateral talk, continuous dialogue on the military or the maritime dispute between the Philippines and China. And that's a bold move. No? Umatras tayo ng konti, pero baka eto. Kaya I support that. And I'm so happy when I learned about it. And these are agreements, that's the number 2 na po nila, agriculture and fishery. Again, that's my province in the northern Luzon. Yung pangatlo, Silk and Belt Road Initiative. Again, that will be my ports and seaports and airports. How could I go against that? I am supporting that. I am supporting the president. But this is not the way to do it. Na makikipag-gera tayo sa hindi tayo handa. No, I saw the wish list of the military here. Ano ang number now na wish list nila? Bunkers. Can you imagine a military do not even have our bunkers because we're not ready for this kind of war. Tapos kami yung ilalagay niyo sa frontline. Wag naman po. Kawawang-kawawa kami. Hirap na kami dito. Niloko-loko kami, inabu-abuso kami. Hindi lang ng panahon. Hindi mga leaders natin dito sa ating probinsya.
Governor, is there any condition by which you might be amenable to that EDCA move? Meron bang kondisyon na pwede kayo
Ayoko po talaga. It would undermine difficult to the interest of the province and the Cagayan. Sa totoo lang po, we want to be at peace with our neighbors. We do not see any threat from China, any threat from Japan or Korea, even in time. And that is why we always welcome them. They come to us here because they want to have trade with us. They see the potential of our port, especially our nearness. No, our port, if opened up, will be a mirror port to practically all ports of this. So, and you could go through China through our port. Neutral po kami kung tutuusin. You cannot go to China through Taiwan now. You cannot go to China through South Korea now or even Japan. Ganda-ganda ng puerto namin pag nabuksan po namin ito. No, and I see a lot of interest dito po. Kaya nga sabi namin, I even named this International Gateway, no? Cagayan's International Gateway. Cagayan being the international gateway to this northern to north of us, the countries, which is the center of economic boom now in the world.
Pero Gob, is there anything that you can do in case nga, well, eventually kasi iano sa Malacanang din to, and mukhang kasama na yung Cagayan, and as far as Charlie Galvez is concerned nga, parang nag-defer na kayo sa kanila eh. So in other words, moving forward, what's your plan? What can you do? What else can you do? Is there anything else that you can do from your end?
Hirap naman ni Charlie, alam niya naman yung stand ko. Why should you do that? Me. Diba? Alam niya, before we parted, sabi ko, I continue my opposition. Wala naman akong makagawa. Yung gusto niyang presidente natin, kung yun ang gusto niya. Pero I think otherwise. No? Ang ganda-ganda ng plano po namin. Nakaplano.
Pero may hihingin ba kayo kung sakasakaling matuluyan? Yet like you said, you are specifically opposed to live fire exercises, ayaw niyo yung bunker. Hihingin niyo ba yun kung sakasakali from the national government?
Meron po ba kayong minimums?
Hiniling po namin yan nung balikatan pa. Pinagbigyan naman kami dyan. No? Pero yung nandito na sila, mag-i-stack, dito sila makikipag-gyera, dito sila ay mas lalong patay na po kami doon. No, sabi ko nga, ang wish list ng mga kwan dito, bunkers, ano ibig sabihin nun? We're not prepared for that kind of war. Ang sinabi ko pa kasi, why should we capacitate ourselves by ourselves? Ang dadadadan mga pinagpipresenta ng mga senador natin, yung self-reliant defense program, yun, no?
Governor, ang sabi ng national government, magge-generate din daw ng economic opportunities siya, ng jobs for...
No question po. No question, bakit hindi? May sundalo, may pakakainin ka. Pero, compared sa mangyayari sa amin, if we have we've been part of international trade. the first 4 cities of this Spanish cities in Manila, in the Philippines, no? Nueva Segovia po ang isa. Sa amin po yun, Nueva Caceres, Naga, no? And Cebu and Manila, 4 cities. The 3 other cities became what they are today. Yung syudad namin dito, namatay, wala. Yung Nueva Segovia namin. Could you imagine that? The galleon trade, nandito na sa amin noon. Pero napabayaan yung river namin. Inabuso yung mga leaders namin. And now is our time to repair it. Now is our time. Lalo na, mamamatay na si Enrile. O, panahon namin ito.
Sir, hindi pa natin alam.
Matagal pa yun. Matagal pa yung governor.
So, walang kasiguruhan yun.
It was with up for 42 years.
Pero yun na rin ang tanong ko, Sir, bakit hindi kayo pinagtatanggol, diba, ni Senator Enrile?
He never learned to love us po.
Kung malapit naman siya sa Pangulo, hindi ko kaya siya pwedeng maging envoy ninyo.
Wala po. He is the worst kind na we cannot emulate him. He could not be. He never led us to where we should.
Okay. Well,
Wala
Governor...
po ba kayong nakikitang kakampi sa gobyerno?
Marami
Senator Aini,
Marami
ano
po.
po siya, di ba?
Marami.
Post niya.
Totoo.
Yeah.
You know, doon ako nagtataka. Even chief of staff, past chief and former chief of staff, they call me, tell me, Manny, tama ka, we are with you. Most of the soldiers are with you. Totoo lang.
Sige po. Well,
Then, our local army dito, hindi po saan, they don't like this kind of war to become of. Sabi nila, sir, hindi ko tayo prepared. No? International security, internal security lang po kaya natin at this point. Sad to say na hindi ko natin kaya.
okay.
Sabi ko, bakit tayo mag-i-invite ng something that will invite trouble for us? Let us do it on our own. No, katulad ng Vietnam. So who will invade Vietnam now? Pinaalis na lang yung superpower. They died for their country. They fought for their country. Now, who will invade Vietnam? We could do the same too for our country. Sinasabi ko po, let us capacitate by ourselves. Let us not get these people to come in there. Bakit tayo in-invade doon bakit tayo in-invade ng Japan ng World War II? Nandito mga Amerikano. 10 hours after they invaded Pearl Harbor, they invaded the Philippines. Why? Nandito yung mga Amerikano. Same thing will happen to us here.
Sige po. Well, Governor Mamba, sir, maraming salamat po. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for now. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you, sir. Ingat po.
Governor.
Salamat, sir.
Cagayan Governor Manuel Mamba. And that's all we have for the Chiefs. We hope what was discussed will keep the conversation going. I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Mami Paminton of the Philippine Star.
I'm Lucy Cruz Valdez of News 5.
I'm Ed Lingao. We are One News, all sides, all the time.